Meet my tia Chela. 71 years old, runs a cundina out of her kitchen in Jackson Heights, Queens, has never once used the word diversification, and has personally outperformed every man in our family who owns a Robinhood app. She has never owned a financial textbook, never downloaded a trading app. I am fairly certain she could not explain compound interest if you paid her to. But she has one thing my cousin Beto, who actually has a finance degree, spent 3 years trying to figure out on his own. How to make people save money when they don't feel like saving money. I'm Layla, and in the circle, we don't just look at the math, we look at what actually gets people to follow it. How a cundina works. If you didn't grow up with a cundina, here's the basic idea. 12 people. Everybody puts in the same amount every month. Let's say $200. That creates a pot of $2,400. Every month, one person gets the entire pot. Then the next month, somebody else gets it, and so on until everybody has had their turn. At the end, everyone has contributed $2,400, and everyone has received $2,400. No interest, no investment return, no bank, no app. Just 12 people, one agreement, and a spiral notebook that Tia Chela has somehow kept alive since 1994. And, of course, a WhatsApp group, which contains approximately 12,000 messages that all mean some variation of, "Don't forget your $200. Beto's kitchen speech. Beto thought the whole thing was ridiculous. 3 Christmases ago, he stood in Tia Chela's kitchen holding a plate of tamales and explained to her that a cundina was an inefficient, zero-interest, unsecured lending vehicle. Yes, he actually said that to Tia Chela while she was making pozole. Beto has a finance degree. He has a trading account. He knows what an ETF is. And apparently he believed this qualified him to explain money to the woman who had been organizing our family's money before he was old enough to spell portfolio. His argument was simple. Why put $200 a month into a system that gives you no return when you could invest that money and make it grow? Beto wasn't wrong. And you know what? He had a point. On paper, he absolutely had a point. A cundina doesn't magically create wealth. If you put in $200 every month and eventually receive $2,400, you haven't earned anything. If you're first in line, you're basically getting an interest-free loan from everyone else. If you're last, you're essentially being forced to save. So if we're talking purely about mathematical returns, Beto wins. Tia Chela knows this. She just doesn't care. Because Tia Chela isn't competing with the stock market. She's competing with human behavior. And that's where Beto's brilliant financial plan started to fall apart. The accountability gap. Because Beto had a trading account, Tia Chela had a deadline. Every month, the $200 was due. And if Beto didn't send it, Tia Chela would know. Not an app, not an algorithm. Tia Chela. There is a very specific kind of financial accountability that comes from knowing your 71-year-old aunt is going to ask you about your missing $200 while you're sitting next to your mother at Sunday dinner. You can ignore a notification, you can swipe away an email, you can absolutely pretend you didn't see an automated reminder, but you cannot easily escape an auntie who has your mother's phone number. That's the part Beto's spreadsheet didn't account for. The cundina wasn't giving anybody a financial advantage. It was giving them a behavioral advantage. It removed the monthly negotiation we all have with ourselves. You know the one. I'll save this month. Actually, my car needs something. Okay, next month. Wait, there's that trip. I'll make up for it later. And suddenly it's December, and you've somehow saved $43.17. Tia Chela's system doesn't ask how motivated you are. It doesn't ask whether the market is up. It doesn't care if you're having a bad financial month. The money is due, that's it. And because everybody else is participating, there's social pressure to keep participating too. You don't want to be the person who breaks the chain, especially when the person keeping the chain alive is your aunt. What happened to Beto? His investment account did well at first. Very well, actually. He was thrilled. He talked about it constantly. He showed people his returns. Nobody had asked. Then the market got less friendly. Then one of his crypto bets went very, very badly. And eventually, Beto stopped putting money into his account. Not because he stopped believing in investing. He just kept finding reasons to use the money somewhere else. There was always something, a bill, a trip, a repair, an unexpected expense, life. Meanwhile, Tia Chela's cundina continued. Same notebook, same $200, same WhatsApp group, same terrifying message every month. Payment today. And eventually, Beto had to admit something extremely annoying. The system he had called inefficient was still working. Not because it produced a higher return, it didn't. It worked because people actually followed it. Why that distinction matters. And that distinction matters a lot more than we like to admit. Because personal finance is full of people who know exactly what they should do. They know they should invest. They know they should save. They know they should have an emergency fund. They know they should probably stop spending $700 every time they're emotionally inconvenienced. Knowing isn't usually the problem. Doing it consistently is. And that's why I actually love the Kundina. Not because I think it's a replacement for investing. It isn't. And it comes with real risks. There's no FDIC insurance on Tia Chela's spiral notebook. If someone takes their payout early and then disappears, the people still waiting could lose money. And there is no customer service department where you can press 1 for, "My cousin ran off with the pot." The system works because of trust, and Tia Chela takes that trust very seriously. She's been running the same cundina for 30 years. She knows exactly who belongs in it. And, according to family legend, she also knows exactly who will never be allowed back in. Apparently, one cousin learned that lesson the hard way. I don't know the details. Nobody does. And nobody is brave enough to ask. My clothes. But here's what I learned watching Beto and Tia Chela. Sometimes the best financial system isn't the one that gives you the highest theoretical return. It's the one that makes the right behavior easier. Or, in Tia Chela's case, unavoidable. Because Beto had to choose to save every month. Tia Chela built a system where saving was simply what you did, and that is a surprisingly powerful idea. If you're the Beto in your family, you have the spreadsheet, the app, the investment strategy, the color-coded plan, and somehow still aren't doing the thing you know you should be doing, maybe you don't need another financial app. Maybe you need accountability, a friend, a partner, an automatic transfer, a system that makes it harder to negotiate with yourself. Because sometimes the problem isn't that we don't know enough about money. Sometimes we know plenty. We just have too many opportunities to talk ourselves out of doing the boring thing. Tia Chela doesn't give you that opportunity. She gives you a date, an amount, and 11 people who know whether you showed up. 30 years later, she's still running that cundina. The notebook is falling apart. The WhatsApp group has become increasingly difficult to follow, and Tia Chela now uses enough emojis that I'm not entirely sure the younger members of the family understand her anymore. But the money still arrives, every month. And Beto? He finally joined the cundina again last spring, apparently under strict instructions from his mother, and with one additional rule. He is no longer allowed to call it an inefficient lending vehicle, especially not in Tia Chela's kitchen, because apparently some financial theories are better left outside with the trash. And maybe that's the real lesson. Beto was trying to make his money work harder. Tia Chela was making people work together, and sometimes that turns out to be the better system. So tell me, Circle, do you have a Tia Chela in your family? Or are you the Beto, the person standing in somebody's kitchen with a brilliant financial plan, a plate of tamales in one hand, and absolutely no idea that the 71-year-old woman stirring the pozole has already figured out your biggest financial problem? You don't need another spreadsheet. You need somebody who knows whether you actually did what you said you were going to do. Tell me in the comments.